This is Longhorn Weekly with head coach Shaka Smart. I'm Craig Way. We'll continue our visit with Coach Smart coming up in a few minutes, but we always like to have the opportunity to visit with a member of the team, and there's nobody quite like our next guest, our special guest, Andrew Jones, Longhorns guard, joins us now. Andrew's story has been well told and well renowned, and there's some things attached that we'll get to. But Drew, let me start with this game. I know it had to be disappointing, frustrating, because you're right there in the game with Baylor. You had a career high 25 in the game, but what was your takeaway when you look back at that overall, the end result of the matchup with Baylor, your overview and looking at that first game, that first meeting with the Bears this year?
It was a great experience to be able to play those guys. They're well coached and really talented team. Throughout the course of the game, playing them, we went on a run, and I feel like we could really compete and hang with some of the best guys in the country. And judging about a few plays that went on defensively, if we could just be a little bit better moving forward, it'll help us in the long run, in the rest of conference and throughout the tournament. So it felt good to be able to play them and test our abilities and see what areas of improvement we need to make, in order to become the complete team that we want to be.
You just made reference to something that Coach was talking about a few moments ago, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. The deal about being on the floor and competing. And some folks outside may look at it and say, wow, who wants to deal with the number 2 team in the country? They're undefeated, blah, blah, blah. And then, didn't have the opportunity to go to Kentucky and play. Players like to compete. You like the opportunity to measure yourself individually and as a collective group, don't you, against another opponent, no matter what the records are.
Right. That's just part of the nature of the game of basketball. A lot of guys on our team are true competitors and want to go out and show their skills against other teams and compete and win games, because that's the reason why we came to play basketball. We didn't train these last 6-7 months to not go out there and play and test it and prove it against other opponents. So, that's why we came to school, to get education and also to compete so we can, play at the highest level possible.
Andrew, with all of the concern, and rightly so, going on around the world, basically with the pandemic and the virus and dealing with it, anyone who might look at someone who's had to deal with other health issues might have even more concern for somebody. And I'm sure folks would look at the battle that you waged and what you came through and how you pushed through the wall in your own personal medical situation, say, boy, I hope he's okay as well. Does that even go through your mind on how you deal with it based on your condition and everything you've had to come through with your fight and your victory over leukemia, to go back to work knowing that there's this other virus out there and everybody has to be careful and deal with it as best they can?
Yeah, it is a high level of uncertainty when it comes to this virus and how to not contract it and how you may contract it and not know. And I just try to do my best of staying as clean as possible, follow the protocols that my doctor tell me and that the coaching staff and the trainers tell me to do, and just try to remain as safe as possible, wear my mask, wash my hands, and, try to limit my close contact with as many people as possible. So, it's been difficult because, I want to hang out with my teammates, hang out with friends and, do certain things. But, it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make in order to, one, be safe and healthy for the people that are around me, my teammates. It's just a selfless thing. I know I have to take care of me just so I can take care of, everybody else. So I try to do my part, be safe, stay out the way so that I can continue to play as many games as possible.
Would it be safe to say that the mental as well as logistical adjustments that you and your teammates have had to make to all of this probably is about as difficult as anything else, that you can't have that close-up time that you might normally have with Matt Coleman or Courtney Ramey or Jericho Sims or whoever on the team, that you have to kind of do it distanced, that team meals on the road are done differently now, and the way that rooming's done on the road and all of those things. That was a major adjustment for everybody, wasn't it?
Yeah, so for years we've been taught, get connected, stay together, get close with one of each other. And now it's more of like, all right, space away. I never heard that as much, since the pandemic started, about being away from your friends or your peers. So it's difficult. It's a huge adjustment to life. that, everybody has to make. And I think we're doing a good job of, making the best out of our situation. Try not to let us being separate affect how close we can still be. We can still talk. There's just certain rules we have to follow in order not not break that close contact barrier, so we won't jeopardize the season or our health. So I feel like the coaching staff and organization doing a good job as of keeping it separated, the food, and trying to limit the spread as much as possible.
Now, let me tell you, let me ask you a competition-oriented question. How challenging, how difficult was it for your guys when there weren't that many of your teammates available for practice on a given day? It's been well documented that for the run up, obviously going to the Oklahoma game and the days later, there was only 3 available, then 5, and then finally 8, and you only had the one workout where everybody, all 8, were on the floor for that one day of practice you had before the Oklahoma game. How does that change what you have to do on the floor and what your team has to do when not everybody's available?
When you're used to like a certain schedule that you've been going by that has been working for months, and then you break it, there's a level of like disconnect that comes with it. And with us not being able to work out plays, the scheme, the game plan together, everybody's picking up pieces by piece each day as they return. It's kind of hard to keep a chemistry like that after being away from the game and each other for a period of time. So leading up to that game, it was difficult. We tried to, one, get ourselves back to our level of play, and then also incorporate that into a team play. So it's kind of hard to do that when, one, your head coach is not there, and then also when you got a group of young guys and players who barely know the structure and organization of the team and try to go out there and be the best. So it's kind of hard at times, but coach has a great structure about the team and core values that we've built. So once we learn to truly own our identity and own who we are, that's when it'll be easier no matter the situation.
Our guest during this portion of the program is Andrew Jones. I want to remind folks that make sure you have the notifications turned on in your Texas Longhorns app so you'll receive your 5 free wings coupon from Pluckers with the Horns win at home. Andrew's involved with something else pretty special. We're going to get to that coming up when Longhorn Weekly continues in a moment. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly. Andrew Jones, our special guest during this portion of the program. Hey, I want to remind you that Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is proud to offer its members 2 free tickets to select Longhorns men's or women's basketball games this season. Visit texassports.com/Texas Farm Bureau for details on how to request tickets. Andrew, we talked a little bit about the game. I want to ask you about something else that I know means an awful lot to you. And this is this foundation that you're launching, the AJ1 Foundation. And to quote you here, this says, this foundation symbolizes my perseverance through adverse situations over the course of my life. This foundation is incorporated to motivate those who've been affected by cancer and systematic oppression. AJ1 stands for and is for those battling terminal illness and financial hardship. AJ1 means to not allow uncontrollable circumstances to dictate your approach to life and to embrace new challenges. You had some other things involved with it. Tell folks a little bit about how you came to this decision and what you wanted to do with this foundation and the ground floor of how you got it together.
My mission with this foundation is to provide, an interactive after school program or a situation that allows, people who are going through adverse situations and may not feel like they can overcome them, certain situations that may affect you differently can also, be demoralizing. So I want to be able to create a positive environment that, gives those resources to those who might not be able to have it on their own. And, I want to be able to give back, be able to help and motivate those achieve their dreams when, most might not be able to think they'd be able to make it.
I know part of the mission statement, the interactive after-school program you mentioned for children in the urban areas in Dallas County and throughout Texas. You, of course, being a Dallas County kid, pride of Irving MacArthur, as they say up there on MacArthur Boulevard, Mac smacks back, that sort of thing. How important is it to start it kind of in your home base area? And I know it's a more global look that you have down the road and the approach that you have for your foundation, but starting it off in Dallas County in the urban areas, how important is it to you to start there at kind of in your home base?
It's important because that's where I grew up. That's where my roots were founded. That's where I was, established. And I know I want to get back to those who I know I grew up with a lot of kids who didn't have the same advantages I grew to have. And I see how it could really affect them and their lives long term. So I want to be able to impact the community early so that long term we have brighter futures and have kids more motivated to get higher education or pursue their dreams in life, because sometimes, in the world today, it's kind of hard to, break those barriers. And I want to be able to be a resource to help the younger generation break those barriers easier, you know.
And you mentioned some really some high level goals and ideals for the foundation. One solution, you said, low cost after school programs, tutoring and athletics. You have some target issues on there as well. Were those kind of the things when you sat down with the people to try to put this together that were at the forefront of your mind to deal with some of the problems that youngsters in those lesser developed and urban areas might be having to deal with?
Right. Again, I kind of use my personal life and the environment around me in which I grew up. I had a lot of friends who didn't have access to gyms, or parents couldn't take them to certain tournaments, or couldn't pay for tutors to help them pass classes when they weren't doing as well. So this is a pain that can really affect the younger generation long term in order to breed, great citizens. I wanted to be able to help them achieve academic success because, without academics, you can't pursue basketball or sports, collegiately. And, I want to be able to help those who weren't able to have the situation I was able to have. So, now that I was able to have it, certain things like the mentorships, I want to be able to have people to be inspirations, to be, motivators to those who might, young children are easily persuaded in both good and bad ways. And, I want to be able to lead them to, brighter futures.
I know one other thing that means an awful lot to you, and part of the mission statement and what's listed is that Black and Brown students in the U.S. are more likely to miss out on after-school resources and enrichment due to socioeconomic and racial barriers. You've been very active on social media about all of the racial issues that have happened over the course of the completed summer as well. But it sounds like the other thing that you're talking about is if they're missing out on those after school resources, that kind of can lead them down to the path that a lot of folks don't want to see them go down. And that is one of the target areas certainly of the foundation, is to help with that specific after school opportunity for them.
Right, because like you said, this safe environment promotes community reconstruction, community involvement, and fellowship. Most of the times when children don't have a positive environment to go to, they're either probably trying to meet up with their friends after school. The parents might work, so they're not really getting the attention that they need or they want. So they go and do things, ill-advised things. As children without guidance, you end up do reckless things without complete awareness of what you are doing. So this, I feel, will be a positive environment. And I've seen it work. I have children, young kids that I've grown to know and grown to build relationships with that, look up to me with my story, and then also tell me that I've helped them, with certain things in your life outside of basketball, which is the entire goal, like use sports as a therapy, use sports or whatever you want to desire as a resource to help you cope with certain things and, feel good about yourself. So I feel like it'll be really a positive thing in my community. I know I wish I could have had more of that when I was growing up. So now that I see that the positive change that I can have on others, I want to spread it as much as possible.
We're looking forward to seeing it as successful as your story has been as well. We're also looking forward to seeing you back on the floor on Saturday against Oklahoma State. I appreciate the time, Drew. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Andrew Jones. Coach Smart will rejoin us coming up when Longhorn Weekly continues here on the Longhorn Network and all across the state of Texas on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield IMG College.